They stole my identity to buy a $38,000 ring for my sister's engagement. That they thought I'd stay quiet, because we're family. But I didn't just fight back. I called the FBI. I had always prided myself on being careful, meticulous about my credit, my finances, my reputation. After all, in my family, I'd become the one others leaned on for responsible decisions. My siblings were younger. My parents busy with work and family obligations. People assumed I was stable, dependable. Little did they suspect how fragile that facade would turn out to be. It began innocently enough, with small oddities. A bank alert that popped up on my phone. A message requesting verification of a purchase I didn't recognize. But I brushed it off. Probably a glitch, I told myself. Then came the letter from a credit card company in another state, addressed to me, stating that an account had been opened in my name. That one I didn't ignore. As I tore open the envelope, my heart sank. The account balance, $38,000. The creditor, a prominent jeweler. The charge, a ring. For my sister, I sat frozen at my kitchen table, the paper trembling in my hand. $38,000 was more than several months' salary combined. I had never authorized such a transaction. It made no sense. Unless someone had used my credit behind my back. I flipped the letter over. It detailed her name, a shipping address, and her promised payment plan. It looked like she had made the purchase herself, except she insisted she had not. Later she admitted she was bewildered. She didn't even shop at that store. She didn't pick out any ring. The paperwork, though, bore her name as authorized purchaser, and my name as guarantor. It was all entirely forged. My first reaction was anger, mingled with confusion. How could someone do this? How dare they drag me into this mess? My mind raced. My sister's fiancé, yes, she was getting married, must have insisted. Or maybe my brother was involved. But no, I couldn't suspect my family on such a scale. Or could I? I called them, my mother, father, sister, in quick succession, demanding answers. They were stunned. They claimed ignorance. My mother fumbled that she'd seen her ring, a large, showy diamond ring, that it had been bought using funds from an account I had opened for them in an emergency. She insisted she thought the account was separate. My sister said she had been shown the ring in a store and assumed it was a surprise. My brother shrugged, pretending to know nothing. But their voices, their hesitations, something was off. The silence, the deflections, they all pointed somewhere else. I started digging. I obtained a copy of the contract the jeweler had with me, and I saw the paperwork, my signature, or something very close to it. The address on the shipping slip was my sister and her fiancé's apartment in the city. The phone number was theirs. The ring was delivered there. Everything led back to them. But the more I poked, the deeper the rot became. I phoned the credit bureau and disputed the charge. I cancelled the card. I locked down my credit. But the damage had begun. Late fees, collection calls, credit ratings slipping, and lawsuits looming. I felt cornered. If the ring payment went unpaid, the creditor could sue me. And if the credit rating slipped further, my ability to borrow or even rent an apartment would be affected. I had built so much with sweat and sacrifice. I wasn't about to let someone dismantle it for a ring. So I decided to do something drastic, something I had never imagined. I called the FBI. It was late evening when I dialed the FBI tip line. My hands shook. The rational side of me said, "This is family. You may destroy relationships forever." But the part of me that prided itself on integrity, that hated being used, that refused to let someone drag me down, that part won. I gave a carefully phrased tip. "I believe my identity has been fraudulently used to make a large jewelry purchase. I want to remain anonymous." They asked questions. Name, address, brief statement of situation. I told them enough, withholding nothing that could jeopardize the investigation. I admitted the suspecting parties, my family, but asked for confidentiality. They assigned a case number, and I was told to preserve all evidence, not to confront anyone until instructed, and to expect contact within days. That night, I slept fitfully. My mind churned with scenarios. Would they arrest someone I love? Would tapes come up? Paper trails? Would my family realize I'd involved the FBI? Could I live with that knowledge? The next morning, I awoke to a calm but strained household. My sister was cheerful, as always, chatting about work. My brother asked if I'd like breakfast. My parents, older now, busied themselves with chores. Nothing seemed awry. They seemed utterly oblivious to what silently loomed. I pretended everything was fine. I didn't mention the ring. I didn't mention the letter. I didn't show fear. I had to act normal while storms brewed under the surface. Days passed. Meanwhile, the credit card company initiated its collection efforts. Letters arrived daily. Calls to me, demanding payment. I ignored them or sent dispute notices. But I knew this would escalate. Lawsuits, holds, garnishments. The pressure built. FBI never called back immediately. For 2 weeks, radio silence. I worried perhaps they declined to take the case. Or worse, that they were gathering. And my family was alerted. Each time someone mentioned the ring or asked me if I had seen the contract, my heart jumped. Then, one afternoon I got the call. A quiet voice from the field office in another city. They confirmed they had opened a formal investigation into identity fraud, using my tip as a starting point. They asked when I first noticed irregularities, for any emails or calls I had forwarded, for statements, for every scrap of evidence I had. I complied. They asked me not to confront anyone yet. No emotional outbursts. No threats. My world turned subterranean. Friends and colleagues had no idea what was happening behind my eyes. I went to work as usual, held meetings, made small talk. But inside, I was tracking every move in the family. About a month into the FBI investigation, tensions began to show. My sister called me one evening to chat. She casually asked, "Hey, did you see that letter the jeweler sent?" I heard something weird. My voice betrayed nothing. I said, "Which letter?" She paused. "You know, the one about that ring. It mentioned your credit." I'm not sure I understood it. My heart pounded. I deflected. I'm still sorting it out. I'll let you know. We ended the call. My pulse stayed high for an hour. Did she know? Was she seeing the shape of my moves? Was she suspecting I had already reported them? A few nights later, my sister's fiancé visited my apartment to drop off something personal of hers I'd been holding. He lingered. He nervously asked if I was upset. He said he'd seen me look disgusted over that mail the other day. He tried to apologize for the inconvenience. I smiled calmly and said, "Don't worry about it." But inside I felt like holding his throat. I watched them. I observed their routines, their glances, the way their voices changed when I walked into a room. I checked my security camera logs at home. I checked my email and phone for any sign they might have accessed or tampered with them. I feared they might have hacked my accounts to erase traces. Simultaneously, the FBI team slowly drew closer. An agent requested surveillance of the jeweler, including purchasing and shipping logs. They subpoenaed records. They asked the jeweler to preserve all paperwork. They were quietly interviewing employees in the chain. I was told that if the investigation held, arrests could be made. But nothing was certain. Then came the moment of confrontation, but not by me. One evening, I overheard raised voices in the siblings' apartment. They lived in an adjacent building. Through thin walls, I heard my sister shout, "You had no right to drag her name through this." Her fiancé retorted, I didn't do anything wrong. This isn't me. My sister cried. Then sign the paperwork. I refused to carry this lie any longer. My heart thudded. They were arguing about paperwork, likely the fraudulent purchase. It dawned on me they were realizing, debating, panicking. Something was breaking. That night I lay awake, listening, waiting for footsteps, for a knock, for someone to reach for my door. I prayed the FBI had not been tipped off, that they could still act. A Tuesday morning began like any other. I awoke, made coffee, scrolled my phone, and prepared for work. At 8:15 a.m., my apartment complex's security cameras, motion sensors, detected a black, unmarked van stopping near my building's entrance. I watched through the peephole. 2 men in plain clothes exited, attached to an inconspicuous SUV behind them. One checked his phone. The other approached the lobby. My heart sank. Could it be the FBI? The timing was too precise. I froze. Do I run? Do I lock the door? Do I hide? Footsteps in the hallway. A knock. Hard shout. This is the FBI, open up. My guess was confirmed. I exhaled, slowly, and in a trembling voice I said, "Who is it?" The reply, "Agents with a warrant." I turned the peephole camera's light on. I unchained the door, opened just enough. A stern-faced man held a badge and papers. He said, "FBI, may we come in?" I nodded, moving aside. 2 agents swept in. They asked me to sit. They searched the living room, kitchen, office. Carefully, methodically. They handled my laptop, documents, hard drives with gloves. I watched, wide-eyed, heart in my throat. The man said, "You're doing great cooperation. We expect to have suspects in custody by tonight." They took copies of everything, emails, bank statements, phone records, everything I'd provided to them. They photographed handwritten notes I had made. They seemed like they already knew my entire side of the story. I remained silent, respectful, saying only what was asked. Then they left with their collection of hard drives, papers, and boxes. The van drove off. The building security guard stood puzzled outside. I breathed deeply. The operation had begun. By afternoon, I got a text. "Available to talk?" It was from one of the FBI agents. I responded, "Yes." They asked me to come to the field office that evening for an interview. I agreed. At their office, I sat across from 2 agents in a small, nondescript room. They had a video recorder on. They asked me everything. When I first noticed the ring, where I had been, whether I suspected anyone, whether I had shared my account details, whether I had confronted my family before. I answered with clear, calm truth. They asked for more documents and asked me not to talk to anyone in the family about the investigation until it concluded. As I left the field office that night, the weight of it all hit me. I had asked the FBI to investigate my own family. The sense of betrayal mingled with fear and determination. But I had made my choice. Part 5. The unraveling in the days that followed. Tension turned to panic in the family. I received a cryptic call from my father, his voice shaky. "I heard something. I hope you're okay." I replied gently but firmly, "I can't talk about it right now." "I will when I can." He begged me. I said, "Please, give this time." He hung up. My sister, with tears in her voice, demanded I sit with her. She asked, "Why would you do this? To me? To us?" I sat quietly. She said she'd been forced, pressured by her fiancé and some intermediaries, that she was ashamed and scared, that she'd rather no one get hurt than see our family destroyed. I held back tears, told her I had no choice, that I could not let them drag me down without consequences. She sobbed. I stroked her hair. I told her I loved her, but I also told her I expected the truth, and that hiding was worse. She begged me to drop the case, to forgive her. I said I could not. Not until the truth came out. Not until all fraud was undone. Not until reparations were made. Then came the biggest shock. One evening, the FBI called to say they'd executed search warrants on a safe deposit box rented by her fiancé under a false name. They found receipts, purchase contracts, written notes, correspondences implicating him as the orchestrator of the transaction, pushing her into using my credit, forging signatures, forging documents, and funneling funds to pay for it. In short, everything led back to him. He was arrested that night. The charge: identity theft, fraud, falsification, conspiracy. The ring was beginning to collapse. My heart pounded when I heard the news. I sat in my apartment, unmoving, staring at the floor. A surge of emotions. Vindication, sorrow, betrayal, relief. I had done what I knew was right, but it had cost so much. Part 6. Fallout and reckoning. The arraignment was held the next morning. Reporters swarmed. The local news station even recognized me in the gallery and asked me for a statement. I declined, saying, I am a victim. I want justice, not spectacle. The judge declared him held without bond due to flight risk and possible witness tampering. As the investigation deepened, more surprises emerged. The jeweler's branch where the ring was purchased had a shady manager who allowed back-channel paperwork and who was being subpoenaed. There were indications that someone else, a family intermediary, possibly one of my uncles or cousins, had helped him arrange the fraud and shielded him from detection for months. The FBI broadened the case to include not just the ring, but identity theft across multiple financial accounts that had been quietly opened in my name, small ones, under various aliases, intended to divert attention. I found out that credit bureaus had flagged suspicious activity weeks before I even learned of the ring, but alerts had been misrouted. Those lapses were also being examined. My family's shock was profound. My parents appeared before investigators and tearfully denied knowledge. My sister gave a statement that she had been coerced, manipulated, and misled. She claimed ignorance of key aspects, for example, forging, signing. The fiancé, in contrast, remained defiant, denying everything at first, then gradually offering partial admission. The media caught wind. My name was whispered in local circles. The person who went behind her family's back. At work, colleagues asked if I was okay. I lied. I told them I was under personal stress, nothing more. I couldn't let my private war leak into my public life. I buckled down into my routine, but the emotional weight remained. One evening, agents met me at home. They brought me more documents and asked for my input on certain names suspected in the intermediary role. They said they'd soon present the case to the U.S. attorney or district attorney for prosecution charges. They cautioned that trials would take time and that the family would try to negotiate plea bargains, mediation, or settlements. They asked me to stay available, to not sign anything, to not talk to my sister or parents about developments. They said, "We've got you protected as a victim witness." I felt both comforted and isolated. My only confidant was the lead FBI agent, anonymous to others, but I had been instructed to avoid contact even with him until necessary. So I bottled it. Fear, guilt, grief. Some nights I lay in bed, crying quietly, wondering how we had fallen so far. How had someone I loved so much led me into a war like this? Months passed. The court schedules crawled. The fiancé's defense attorneys approached me indirectly, through my sister. They offered to settle, to pay off the ring, to have me withdraw the complaint, to get me to move on. My sister begged me to accept. He's sorry, he'll make it right. Don't ruin our lives. I refused. I told her, if he is truly sorry, he will accept responsibility publicly. She sobbed and begged. I held firm. In pre-trial motions, revelations surfaced. Emails exchanged between him and the manager at the jeweler's branch confirmed that he requested expedited shipment, asked for forged signatures, and pressured staff to make it happen, under the radar. The safe deposit box yielded the contract paperwork and a handwritten ledger of payments disguised under other names. Witnesses in the jewelry store said the manager was suspicious but intimidated. The defense tried to suppress some evidence, claiming chain of custody issues. The prosecution objected. During one cross-examination, his attorney turned to me in open court and asked, "Are you absolutely certain you did not in any way authorize or tacitly consent to this purchase?" My voice steady, I replied, "I never saw or agreed to any contract. I never asked for that ring. My credit was used without my knowledge." The courtroom was tense. The jury watched. My sister testified. Tearfully, she recounted how he had manipulated her, how he had shown her the ring, claimed she could pay later, cultivated her trust, provided plausible stories. She admitted she signed forms under his guidance, believing him. The defense grilled her on memory, on what she remembered. It was heartbreaking to watch her bear that. Then came his testimony. He denied forging, claimed that he had believed she really wanted it, claimed she had said she wanted a diamond ring, that I would have known. He insisted someone must have messed with paperwork. But when presented with the emails and safe box evidence, he wavered. Under pressure, he admitted to orchestrating the purchase using my credit, forging my signature, and forging documents to make my family appear uninvolved. He claimed desperation, among financial pressures, believing the wedding was failing, and looking for a way to show commitment, but expressed regret. The jury sat silent. After days of deliberation, the verdict was rendered guilty on multiple counts: identity theft, fraud, forgery, conspiracy. The judge sentenced him to prison, several years, ordered restitution to me, including legal fees, interest, and penalty, and ordered the jeweler to void the contract, return the ring if still in inventory or to recover it, and issue a public correction. The manager in the store was also fined and suspended from employment or terminated. The larger fraud ring connecting the intermediary relatives was still under investigation, and some were indicted. That day, I felt a strange release, like chains unlatching inside me, but also emptiness, because victory came at great cost. Over the next year, life slowly regained a semblance of normalcy. My credit was fully restored. All fraudulent accounts closed. The jeweler refunded whatever was possible. The ring was returned or repurchased at my option. I chose to decline it. It was tainted. My name was cleared in court documents. The local media receded. Most people forgot the sensational headline. My family. That was more complicated. My sister and I slowly reconciled. It was awkward. Visits, dinners, conversations, full of silences. But she and I attended therapy together. She expressed remorse, guilt, grief. I forgave her for the parts she admitted, but trust was rebuilt in slow increments. My parents still struggled. My mother cried when she looked at old photos of the two of us. My father apologized, but some grey lines remained, remembering betrayal, caution. I moved forward. I changed jobs, relocated to a new city, rebuilt my social circle. But the memory of that betrayal stayed with me. I sometimes had nightmares, sometimes flashbacks when I received mail, when I was asked for ID verification. I grew more cautious, more guarded, but I also grew stronger. I often wonder, Would I do the same again? Would I risk tearing my family apart? The answer is yes, because integrity mattered, because I refused to be a victim without recourse, because some things, truth, accountability, are worth fighting for.